Anime characters aren't the smartest bunch when it comes to risk assessment, most of them at least. For every magnificent chess master, you'll probably get a horde of hot-blooded go-getters that punch, jump, and boast before they think. It makes sense since anime is supposed to be fiction, and a lot of these people, especially if they're protagonists, simply brush aside all possible consequences. Then there are these guys. These people who instantly regret their actions only for it to be too late. Sucks to be them, you know. Today, we'll be going over some of my memorable instant regrets in anime. Whether it be punching above your weight class, trash-talking the godliest being in the universe, or simply conscience getting in the way and leading to severe consequences. Scavenger vs. Accelerator starts off our list. In anime, there exist the villains that pose the real threat. You know they're trouble, and you know they'll also be the ones to undergo long, winding redemption arcs that make them fan favorites even more. Accelerator is one of those. Then there are those villains who form some quirky mini boss squad, the characters that occasionally pose a threat but end up being more of some shades of a Team Rocket-like group. Sure, they can find themselves higher up in the totem pole than the actual joke villains, but that's the ceiling for them. Scavenger is one of those. Too bad they don't realize this when they get asked to stop Accelerator. Despite all their talking up about themselves, all their combination attacks mean nothing against Academy City's strongest, and Accelerator makes short work of them, taking them down one by one as the leader watches in horror. It's not even a fight, it's more like a massacre, and most embarrassing of all, leader ends up wetting herself when all's said and done. Beware the nice ones, they say, and that can't be any truer for Gon. It's not hard to see why people tend to pick on Gon. Unlike both Kurapika and Killua, he doesn't seem to hide a murderous streak. He's happy, carefree, and has quirky powers, but only us fans know and understand the darkness and rage that hides underneath that facade. Morel certainly doesn't, and that shows in his haughty attitude when testing Gon, even going as far as provoking the guy to rage just to have him fight seriously. Gon, with the intent to kill, is truly a monster in all sense. We know that having watched the show, but it's oh so fun to see Gon making people regret wrong assumptions in early Hunter x Hunter. And every time he makes people pay for looking down on him, it's a gratifying moment. You wouldn't want to experience the full wrath of the monster that lies within. Next up, we have Assassin vs. Gilgamesh in Fate Zero. Part of a clever power play by Kirei, Assassin runs into Gilgamesh. It's all a ruse on the part of the evil priest, but we've got to give some props for all the effort in being Assassin's biggest hype man leading up to this moment. He props Assassin up and builds his confidence, sending him off to kill Tokiomi in a mission that's supposedly super easy for him. Now, we all know how that ends up. Assassin does get the infiltration part halfway done, but as for fighting Archer, didn't quite go his way now, did it? No need to fear Archer, Kirei said. That's funny, but I don't think Assassin found it funny when he got turned into mincemeat by the strongest servant of them all. With Gilgamesh spouting one of his many signature badass boasts while towering over the servant he's so casually destroyed. No wonder Gilgamesh ends up being so arrogant. It takes an insane amount of willpower to not get caught up in your own hype when you're that powerful. Garou was full of hype, but even all that top booking is nothing against Saitama. After the excellent showing he had ever since his debut in One Punch Man, it's clear as day that Garou is being poised to be the next big villain. A lot of people bought it, and he himself bought it into his own hype. I mean, having taken down hero after hero without even so much as breaking a sweat, Garou's stocks must be at an all-time high at this point. Then, he also runs into some bottom-feeder no-name guy in the streets. Thus, Garou does the smart thing and hits this random scrub the hardest he can, enough to cause cracks on the ground. Too bad, this random scrub is none other than Saitama, and he gets paid back in kind. Just like all the arrogant villains before him, Garou gets dealt the signature one-hit knockout. One punch is all Saitama needs, but this doesn't even qualify as a serious punch. A chop is all it takes to cut Garou down to size.
これください。3000円です。地味に高いな。
Before we move on to the next entry on the list, I'd like to take this time to thank today's sponsors, ExpressVPN. VPNs are aplenty, so how do we determine the best VPN of them all? I think the ease of use is the biggest factor, and ExpressVPN has that title won, no questions asked. With the ability to access so many different servers from across the globe, bypassing region locks and protecting your identity has never been this easy. You don't need to be a tech wizard to make this work. I used it just this weekend to watch Hunter x Hunter, which isn't available in the UK. All I had to do was open up ExpressVPN and select the United States server, and boom! Now I can watch Hunter x Hunter like dozens of other anime on Netflix. Break region locks, overcome villains trying to get your personal info, and surf without suffering any slowdowns in internet speed. So what's not to like? No other VPN I've used comes anywhere close to ExpressVPN in terms of effectiveness, ease of access, and value for money. You can get 3 months of ExpressVPN for free by following the link below or typing in www.expressvpn.com/ViniiTube. A world of safe browsing and an internet free of limitations are at your fingertips. Now, back to the show. It's about time to feature Parasyte in one of these lists, so we have Shinichi versus the Bullies. Bullies aren't exactly the most self-aware people in the world. All that power and influence quickly seep into your brain and remove your sense of danger. They find themselves unable to recognize when they're punching above their weight class, and they rightfully suffer the consequences of doing so. In some other scenario, they would have gotten away with it in this moment. However, what they didn't account for is the fact that Shinichi's no longer just an ordinary dweeb that they can push around. This is now a guy who's been enhanced with unimaginable power, allowing him to easily block the toughest punches and pay them back in kind. Shinichi has become a monster, and he had no qualms letting these bullies know about it. We're all thankful he's on humanity's side, right? We move on to Mob versus Hanazawa. I'm beginning to see a pattern here. Gon, Saitama, Shinichi, truth in television. It's the nice, goofy-looking people getting underestimated in those 3 scenarios, and we continue that role with Mob. Just like the 3, Mob has never been one to flaunt his power. It makes sense, considering how different of a role he has compared to Gilgamesh and Accelerator, who are villains or fringe allies at worst. In one of the most memorable moments of Mob Psycho, we have Hanazawa here, who's a ball of fire, a wave of momentum going up against Mob. What can dorky old Mob do against the de facto leader of the school, one full of gang wars that pose no threat to Hanazawa whatsoever? He developed quite an ego as a result too, but unfortunately for him, that ego wasn't enough to defeat Mob, and he got destroyed in a straight up humiliating fashion. His psychic powers were quickly overwhelmed by Mob, and he finally learns his lesson. After being embarrassed the way he did, how could you not learn your lesson? Shizuo has made a name out of ass kicking, and these thugs are no exception. It feels good to be able to talk about Durarara. Quite a nice show that people seem to have forgotten about in the passage of time, but it's my turn to remind you of how badass Shizuo is. This guy eats fights for breakfast, and he's the type of angry dude who will beat people up just for looking at him. Only fools will dare challenge this monster to a fight, but the thugs in Ikebukuro can't seem to read the notice. The most glaring example is this idiot here who dares smash Shizuo's head with a bat. People indeed lose all sensibilities in the face of fear, and they pay hard for it. Shizuo no-sells the shot and sends the receipt back in a big way, punching the guy right to the sky, eradicating him and his clothes in the process. That should teach these thugs to pick their fights and never mess with just anyone, especially not a good old bartender who lives and breathes fights. Sakura failing to destroy the Rinnegan is such a vital point in the final arc. Here's a rare heroic example of characters regretting their actions instantly, and it must be poor Sakura in the spotlight. To be fair, I don't think that she would have gotten as much flack as she did when the anime version of the scene aired. Still, it doesn't make it any less of an instant regret, because everyone knows so much could have been prevented had she been quick enough to do it. It really does go both ways in my opinion. On one hand, Sakura didn't have the mental fortitude to carry on with it as quickly as she should. She also took her sweet time arguing with Obito, costing them valuable time. On the other hand, it's freaking Madara she's racing against. The anime extended this scene compared to the manga, but in the manga, the whole thing happened in such a shorter span of time. It's really a wasted opportunity that I'm pretty sure would have haunted me to Kingdom Come had I been in Sakura's shoes. At least I can console myself by thinking it can't be avoided when I'm tasked to race with what people can say to be Naruto's version's equivalent of Utsuro or Aizen. Besides, he would never have been weaker, but given how broken he is, Madara would have still done tons of damage had Sakura succeeded. Lastly, we have a big moment from Tokyo Revengers featuring everyone's favorite leader, Mikey. Mikey has quickly become the fan favorite amongst the Tokyo Revengers characters, and why wouldn't he be? He plays the role of the cool leader type to perfection, and a good leader is someone you can trust to have your back even in the direst of situations. Someone who can turn things around and exact divine retribution on arrogant slobs. You know, people like Hanma. A bloody and beaten up Mikey is still a force to be reckoned with, but Hanma doesn't seem to know that. He continues with his arrogant posturing, completely oblivious to the danger he's put himself in. Well, there's a kick that would surely teach him a lesson. One kick is all it takes, and just as Mikey so nonchalantly claims, it's all over. It's nothing short of satisfying seeing everyone flee in fear. As they say, a war gets decided when the leaders take on each other, and as one falls, so does the rest of the group. That just about wraps up my favorite instant regret moments in anime. Some sweet moments there, don't you think? If you enjoyed the video, please check out my channel for more content. I've got videos on a lot of things, mostly catered to shonen fans. Best mentor entrances, top fights, biggest showcases of power, you name it. You can also check out ViniiTube Kai, my other channel that caters more towards video essays than lists that revolve around specific titles. Oh, and don't forget to drop by our social media if you've got the time too. Discord, Instagram, and Patreon are all open. We're also exploring other possible avenues to keep in touch with the community, so please stay tuned. That's it for this week. I hope you had fun, and if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe so you can be alerted the next time I upload a video. Thanks for watching.